Welcome to this special edition of the Awake Origins experience. I am Joël aan het Goor, and I'm excited to share with you a very inspiring conversation I had with Bas Beek. Bas is a highly successful, purpose-driven entrepreneur who has been on a path of consciousness for years and is also involved in the Awake Origins movement. As a founder and CEO, Bas built a company with over 1,500 employees and a turnover of 100 million euro. He's also an investor focused on supporting purpose-driven ventures. In our talk, we dive into his entrepreneurial and spiritual journey, how he makes decisions, what it means to go all in, and much more. If you're looking to elevate your life and purpose, this episode is for you. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Bas, great to have you here on the show. I've been looking forward to this. I think we spoke, it was about 12, maybe even 13 years ago for the first time. Back then, you were to me a prospect for my former company, and we talked to each other over the phone. And I was aware of what you were doing back then in building your company. And I could feel it was a purpose-driven thing. And then we met later in real life. I think it was only 5 years ago. You started as an Awake Origins member and later even as an investor. And there was a different Bas. You were not only purpose-driven, but there was this consciousness that was part of you as well. You have become an awake entrepreneur too. And this is what I truly love about what you are embodying. Very successful entrepreneur, investor, but you're also going all in on your own growth, consciousness, and go deeper in that and integrating that into all aspects of your life. So I've been looking forward to this a lot, to dive into you and your journey and what drives you to all of this. Is that okay for you?
That's very okay, Joel. Thank you.
All right. What has your journey looked like from what I just said, this purpose-driven entrepreneur, to what you could call an awake entrepreneur? What did it look like? What happened there for you?
Okay, so we're not going to talk about the purpose that came to the surface, but the stage or phase after that.
Oh, you can also share something about the purpose that came to the surface, and because that's quite unique, I think, as well.
Yeah.
That at such an early stage, you were able to tap into something which you could call true purpose.
Yeah. I think you're right. It felt very special for me as well, and at the same time, extremely normal.
How old were you back then?
29. So, kind of 20 years ago. I started with the idea of a company and developing young children to build new generations. And that idea came to the surface after I quit my former job. And I realized that I was not doing anything really meaningful, and also not in a meaningful way to the world. I was selling projects to clients and not focusing, because it was not really what we were doing on what clients needed, but what they asked for before that, not elaborating or going deeper into them. And I realized, I reflected on myself, and I thought I want to do something for the world where people would be standing in line for things that I would not have to sell, because it would be magnetic. People would, the product would sell itself because everybody obviously needed it, instead of something that you have to push into the society and do a lot of selling and marketing to get it sold. And I've always loved children tap into their frequency, maybe because I'm a child myself still a little bit. And I knew that I would be working for young children and help parents to raise them and develop them in the earliest years. I was interested in that, and I read books about how important those first 5 years in the life of children are. It was amazing. I mean, everything afterwards is also important, but those 5 years are very, very shaping the happiness and well-being in the future of a human being. So I realized that these young children were actually very young adults. And I took this more serious than I saw around me being done by childcare organizations.
And you were not a father then yourself back then, or were you?
No, not yet. Yeah. So that makes it for me even more special. I did not need to have children to get this strong passion and purpose.
Can you describe how it felt to have that passion and purpose? How does that feel?
It is, I don't know, it's like some kind of oxygen for me, or some kind of, it is something so strong in your life that the moment that you wake up, this is the thing you are running for, or go for, or live for, or until you go to bed. At least it's in my case. I could never stop thinking about it. So that's why it was never difficult to work on it, even though the work was difficult and sometimes problematic. But it was never difficult to put my energy in it.
Even when, because you built it out into a sizable company, I believe over 1,000 employees.
Yeah, 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah.
Which, with a lot of shit happening along the way, of course, when managing something like that, were you able to stay in connection with that purpose all the time?
Yes. Yeah, all the time. I have to say that the bigger you grow, the bigger the impact of problems or challenges. So the bigger the time you spend on it, but the purpose has never been smaller. No, it's actually the purpose where all people are coming for in our company. It is in all the satisfaction surveys of our employees. It's the biggest and most important thing that they tell us. Why do they work for Company? That's this purpose. Every time again. So we never let loose on that.
So you had purpose as a starting point, and you kept embodying it, and you built out a successful company. And what happened along the way for you when you look at yourself, your own personal growth? And when did your awakening start?
Yeah. Well, this purpose was so strong that I told you it was not difficult for me to put my energy in it and to build a company from that. But of course, everything has its flip side. And my flip side was that I was focusing so much like a blind horse going. And because the purpose was good and clean and pure, I could take a lot of people with me. And they were very enthusiastic to follow that same dream and mission. But in my way of working, I was not always paying attention enough to the left or to the right, to people telling me or signaling things. And in those years, we were growing very fast and with a very straight course, direction. But I did not always see or hear the signals of people until I realized that there was some kind of misunderstanding between me and a colleague, which was very strong. And I felt, wow, I have gone too far. I should have noticed before that already. And also in my life, with my children, with my wife, I noticed these things that were knocking on my door, like they needed attention. And that's kind of the moment in my life that I knew, okay, I need to dig a little bit deeper. I cannot always say people that they are wrong and that I'm right.
So, which was also part of your power probably, to be so stubborn and just go for it, go all in and make it happen.
Yeah, that's why I say it's the flip side of the coin. It has two sides.
Yeah.
When I became more conscious and more silent and more self-reflecting, I have to say I did not achieve a lot of things business-wise as I did before. It's also the flip side of the coin. Yeah.
Why is that?
I think because I did not move with that strong direction and blindness anymore. But I started to do this, which is also good, and I let other people do more instead of me. But that it has also to do with growing a company. Yeah? You get bigger. The growth is not so huge and strong anymore as in the first 3, 4, or 5 years, which is logical. I mean, this year we're crossing the 100 million turnover per year. That is not what it was the first 6, 7, 8 years.
Interesting what you're saying. Can it also be related to indeed like the stage of the company, and that maybe you felt that it is also time to move on to something else, so that a new purpose in whatever direction it is can emerge, and then you can integrate both the consciousness side and the go for it side? Or do you think it's a permanent transformation that happened, that you will never again have that all-in mentality like you had it?
It's a difficult one. I have thought about this, but I don't have my own answer yet. I don't have it. I don't know. Sometimes I think for pioneering and building something, you need that blindness. Because if you have any direction, it's good if you go very straight following that direction instead of meandering like this. On the other hand, there's loads of companies that were pivoting all the time, and meandering, and then became a success. I couldn't tell. But the life has changed. I mean, when I started the company, it was much more normal to listen to the boss, to say, we'll go that way, okay, let's go. Right now, everyone wants to be part of having an opinion and having a part of the direction of the company, and it's just a difference.
Yeah, I understand. Let us go back to the first period of awakening for you. So the moment that consciousness and more awareness became important for you. Can you describe the journey that you've been going through since then and how it has deepened for you?
Yeah. When I started to realize that I needed to look into myself for the frustrations which I was encountering, instead of looking in my environment, because those were guilty, or those situations, then it went faster and faster. And the best way for me to feel this was by breathing, and do very serious breathing sessions. And what I learned was that the way you breathe and the way you can keep on breathing and have your attention still pure at that breathing, instead of going away via thoughts in your head, that depends on how much you can be with yourself instead of fleeing away. The whole process and meaning behind it is so much more than I thought before that about just breathing. And so I could literally feel how fast I flew away. And so I knew, okay, this is something I have to dig into deeper, because if I'm fleeing away from stuff, it means that I don't want to see something. I don't want to embrace it. I want to keep it away. And I I really have loved that process, although it was difficult. But that process with radical honesty, being radically honest to yourself, and see literally everything in your life which has been put away for a long time, or which you don't want to see, might be something that happened yesterday and last week, but really looking it into the face and accepting it and going on from there, it relieves a lot, and it makes things more open and more possible. And I get more silent of it and more mellow, not in a fight mode anymore.
How do you do that radical honesty? I know, of course, I work with many people in raising their awareness, and some people rather burn down the whole house than to look at what has to be looked at.
Yeah.
So, because it can be a painful process. It's enlightening, but it's painful.
Yeah.
So how does it work for you? How can you be in this mode of radical honesty?
Well, first I burned down 8 houses. No, it's... it was difficult for me as well, because everyone has these stories and excuses for a problem that they don't want to look into the face. Everyone, in a certain way. And for me, that was the same thing. But I realized that after hearing this a lot of times, that it would be enlightening. And if you get frustrated about the same thing time and time again, even someone that is as stubborn as me, at a certain moment you think, okay, I'm going to open the door for this thing, because in the way I am repeating myself and walking the same kind of circles, it is not going to evolve or develop for me. So whatever, I am going to do this. And I was like, okay, writing it down. Yeah, everything. And I was like, I don't have to be afraid about anything or anyone, because I'm here with myself. I can write it down. I can throw it away. I can burn it afterwards. But write down. The harder you write it down, the better. But please write it down as you feel it. And that was the start of being radically honest to myself. And it was afterwards, it was relieving. It's like, okay, that's not so strange. You have fear for this or for that. Okay, you don't want to see that or that. You don't want to admit this or that. Okay, maybe that's what has made it difficult in your life on these subjects, in these situations, in these years. It was relieving. And it's still, it's really a process. It never ends. You hear a lot of people say this, but it's really true. It will never end. And even stronger, even more, if I go on holiday for a week and live unconsciously and don't do any breathing, don't reflect, I'm losing it again. It's like meditation or breathing for me. Reflecting is like a practice. I need to do that frequently, otherwise I don't stay with myself.
And how do you make sure you build in the breathing or the meditation or the reflecting into your life?
Yeah. Well, I had breathing sessions frequently to learn technically how many techniques there were available to me, and what would work, yes or no, for me. You did them with Awake Origins in the mornings, or sometimes in the evenings, I believe. I followed those as well. And then I made a promise to myself. I said, I'm going to do this every day for at least a bit. And then in the weekend, one of the 2 days of the weekend, going to do this for 45 minutes, an hour, maybe 1.5 hours. And I have done that. And sometimes I don't do it for 3 days because I wake up late and I have to go somewhere far, I don't know. And I don't blame myself anymore. That's a great thing as well. I don't blame myself anymore. I say, okay, all the days that you did it were so good, and now you can't. It's okay. Day number 4, you pick it up again. So, and it feels very good. So it's not difficult to do. And I do it because meditation for me is something different than breathing. It has the same impact, the same achievements or results, but meditation is too quiet for me and too much. It's too possible for me to flee with a thought that comes in. And with breathing, I have to keep my attention to the rhythm of the breathing. So at least I can focus on something.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, things evolve, like there should be with meditation as well. But it's for me, breathing is a way that I prefer most.
Has the increase of awareness through reflection and through breathing changed the way you invest or changed the way you lead the company?
Yeah.
And how?
Definitely. There's 2 things. I want the companies in which I invest to have a great purpose, to do something where the world or our society benefits from. And second, their values, the way of working, is it sustainable? Yes or no? How profoundly have they been thinking about it? What did they do for it? It's actually 2 different things, and they are related to each other. But I can imagine investing in a company with a great purpose, with doing great stuff, but these other things, they haven't thought of it too much, or their working processes are not so sustainable, or the way they handle their garbage or whatever. I could imagine still investing in that company because it does something beneficial for the whole planet.
I've got to know you as someone who believes in purpose and profit. I think that's also the way you invest. You also look at the numbers, and it has to have this purpose. What is the importance of the founder for you, or the founding team, when it comes to their embodiment of purpose or their awareness level, for example?
What is the importance of?
And to what extent needs a founder or a founding team truly embody the purpose that their company is about?
Yeah.
And how do you measure that?
Well, I think it's very important that they embody it. There can be exceptions. Well, as long as they embody it, in their company, and making sure they achieve that mission and those goals that they have been looking at, that's most important. If a founder is not 100% aligned with those goals in his or her private life, I would have to look at it. But for me, the impact is most important. If one person is reducing 100% impact to 50% in his or her life, but with a company achieves impact for thousands of people for 100% or 90 or 80, it's still a no-brainer for me. So I try not to judge about that. But personally, I like authentic people that have a pure, deep meaning. And when that doesn't resonate with me, when I look and speak to a founder, I don't do it. If it's not pure, if it's not the right intention, or I feel something which is not pure, I don't do it.
To what extent do you trust on your feeling then, or your intuition? How do you do that? How do you feel into something?
The most easy and maybe important things in life you cannot explain. It's like love. How can you talk about love? It's something you feel. My intuition, I can never explain it to anyone, but I will not stop following it. Never.
How would you describe your decision making? To what extent is it intuitive, and to what extent is it fact based?
It starts with intuition. It starts with feeling, and then my logical way of thinking, an analytical way, is then trying to filter it and to check it. Is it possible? Does it make sense? Is it achievable? Is it available? So it's first my feelings and my intuition, and then but I need that logical side.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So you co-create between the two.
Yeah, and the logical side is very, very strong as well. I mean, it slashes everything. Yeah.
If it's not right, it's not right.
Exactly. Yeah, it should go together, and when it goes together, it is so strong. It's I wouldn't say unbeatable, but this cannot go wrong. And I want to feel that before I start off a company.
Have you always had that since the very beginning in your entrepreneurship, that those two were working together?
Yeah, always. Yeah. Always. For me, it's normal. It's the way I work. Yeah,
it's interesting. So from the very beginning, your purpose-drivenness was normal. Your intuitive decision-making, in combination with the rational side, was normal.
For me, normal.
For you, yeah, for you. For many others, it's not. So you embodied it from the very beginning. So I'm curious, while you're journeying through life and in a higher level of awareness, what is changing? Because many things are already there. What is changing in your experience of life, or in what's important for you and what is not?
The things that are changing and where I'm still getting used to is that if you take off the blind, I don't know how to call these things, of a blind horse, and everything gets open, you see really a lot. And these things are beautiful and not beautiful. I mean, you see yourself as well, and can be beautiful and not be beautiful. You can be shocked by things that you see yourself doing, which were never the intention, but it's a pattern. So that is actually the journey that I'm having right now, getting used to everything which is seeing myself and see, okay, so what if I filter that or I distillate it, what stays as a residue, with which I will go on in the next stage of my life. This is what I'm going through recently. I don't know what... I know that I would like to start companies, and I'm a pioneer, but I don't know what I will be pioneering in a year from now.
How does it feel?
Strange, unfamiliar, unheimisch. Because I always knew this is the way where I want to go, and that made it very successful. And right now, I don't know yet how.
But when you tap into the future, you can feel that is what you want.
Yes.
And pioneering again.
Yeah. And also how impactful, and probably again something for children and some other ideas. Yeah. But this is so big. I need to let it sink in. And also the way how to do it, because I will probably not be a blind horse anymore.
Yeah.
And sometimes that was a advantage.
I'm very curious what happens with you once you do tap into the new path, because the power within you is still there.
Yeah.
The ability to create something impactful and huge. How that will work out with your awareness and that power.
Yeah. Me too. I'm very, very curious about that. Yeah.
Something else I was very curious to. Well, I have 2 kids, 3 and 5 years old, and I live quite a busy life. I travel. I have relatively long working weeks. Of course, I also have the challenge to be in the present moment and work with myself on that. And it's interesting. Before this conversation, we took a walk in the forest, and then your phone rang 2 times, and it's your kids, and you right away pick up. Like you have an availability there.
Yeah.
But also when I talk to you, you're often traveling, you're working on many different projects or investments. You have a lot on your plate. So throughout life, how have you been combining your entrepreneurship, time for yourself, and availability for your kids?
Time for myself, that was the things that were the pieces and bits that were still there after I scheduled everything. Time for my kids and for my family. So that's the least. Time for the children I found very, very important. I'm a family man. So I knew that whatever I would be doing, I would always create time for them. It's just, if that is such a strong feeling, it is top priority. And it's not like you think about it should be top priority, I have to work on it, and then it's number 1 or 2. No. Boom, it's there. So that's why if people are very, I'm not always like that, but if people are very aligned with themselves, they know what their priorities are, and they don't have to think about it. They live their priorities immediately. And in the case of the children, that counts for me as well. So I was always there at 6 o'clock. In the earlier years, in 2011, 12, then 13, I was traveling really a lot. But all those other years, in 20 years, I was there for the children from, I think, 6 o'clock in the evening. Yeah, so it's not because of my job in developing children, but also, as a CEO of a company or any company, if you engage in other stages of life, for example, if you do volunteer work for an elder home, and you tap into that, and you feel how these people live, and you are engaged to it, you create sympathy, and your whole idea of life is bigger, and you will be knowing more about what is necessary out of your company as well. So as a director or a CEO of a company, I would encourage every father or mother to be engaged with their children as well. I think it's difficult for people without children to, because it's richer, your view on life, if you understand children, I think.
And what happens when the shit hits the fan within the company, or you're really needed there, maybe for weeks in a row? Do you have then less time for family, or how does that act out for you?
Yes, then I have less time for family.
Yeah, just the way it is, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay. Because it will never be for a year, or for half a year, or for 3 months.
Yeah. The way I look at life is that with every choice you're making, you're sacrificing another reality. If I choose right now to drink a cup of coffee, I'm sacrificing a cup of tea. And it's in the small things and in the big things. Do you have the feeling that you had to sacrifice things in life in order to achieve what you have achieved?
Yeah, definitely. First, my health. So I went to bed in the early years, the first 2 years of company, 3 years. I went to bed like 3 o'clock in the night after finishing a lot of emails. And I was like, can it not be 7 o'clock already? Why do we need sleep at all? There's 24 hours in a day. if we skip that sleep, we have much more productivity. So I could do that, but I sacrificed a lot in those years on my health, my rest, reflection, I think. And also, in a way, also contacts and social friends, which I could not see a lot, only in the weekend. And I used to spend time on them way more before that. And also the children, not a lot actually, no. But I also sacrificed security. I mean, it's not like you choose this and you don't have that anymore in terms of time, but also in terms of, I had a job where I was pretty secure in a steep path for my career. I gave up all of that, took a different job, but also took a lot of risk. I think I sacrificed a lot, and I think it is, maybe it's a judgment, I don't know, but it's a very strong belief that you cannot create a company without sacrificing anything, or without sacrificing a lot.
Yeah. And I see nowadays there are many people talking about the importance of balance in life and that you shouldn't work those 60 or 80-hour work weeks. And I cannot help but notice that often these are people who do not know what it is to build a company, or they are already very successful as an entrepreneur and they can finally sit back a little bit and have more time.
Yeah.
And I wonder also in your own experience and what you see with your investments, is it possible to build a company, successful company, with a low amount of time investment, or do you always need to go all in? And then, yes.
Don't ask me this question. Don't ask me this question now. I like you do, I don't believe in. I believe in balance, but I am not a balanced entrepreneur, and you can become a balanced entrepreneur once things are from this volatility going into a different flow and frequency, which is much more stable, much more predictive, logical, of course, but not in that first stage. If you want to set up a company, anything can happen. You don't know. How can you be leading a balanced life if everything happens which you don't know? It's impossible. It's impossible.
I loved how you described that just now. I remember from very vividly when I built my first company that I would do the 80-hour work weeks easily. And when I would wake up at night, I would have a problem because my mind would right away go into the problem solving and whatever was on the table to be solved at that point in time. So there was no way to get away from that. So for sure back then, for me, it was company first. Everything was around the company, and also the relationship that I had back then. It's a very long relationship, but that relationship is not there anymore. And I think I sacrificed that relationship as part of, but this is first. Would you say, then especially in the early stages of a company as an entrepreneur, if you have a family, is it purpose first? And is it family second? Or is it a very unconventional thing you cannot say? How do you look at this?
Difficult.
When did you get your kids? How old was the company at that point in time?
The company was open and started 3 years.
Relatively early. And what?
It's a child care company.
Yeah.
So I started to work on children immediately for myself. No.
Did anything change for you at that point? Of course, fatherhood changes something, but in the way you looked at the company and how you grew it?
Actually, no. Not the fundamental parts. It changed in a bit because I became a client of my own company myself. So I saw more than before from different eyes. The eyes of a father of a child who also brings his child to one of our locations. But for the rest, it has not changed because it's a childcare company. I mean, it had to do. If I would have started up a totally different company, I could imagine
that it will be more separate.
Yeah.
World.
Then it would have been more shocking or exciting or challenging. I don't know. But because this was a child care company, it was very aligned with my life as a father with children who finds it extremely important to bring it somewhere where they help develop your child the same way as you do at home.
Yeah. Looking back at your career as an entrepreneur and your successes and your personal growth, it's always difficult to say, okay, these are advices for entrepreneurs or CEOs to do things because everyone is different, every situation is different. But do you see universal principles that you believe apply to everyone on how to be a conscious entrepreneur or a conscious leader?
Yes, I see some. First, I would say don't do something which is already being done unless you significantly can improve it without others copying that. So do something where people are shouting for that they really want and no one else is doing it, or everyone else is doing it the wrong way. But do something which people are really standing in line for. That's a very important thing. I still see people having business plans or entrepreneurs that I think, come on, this is not going to make any difference. It's so shallow, the business plan, and too much dependent on so many factors or dependencies. So that's one thing. And then, make sure that it has impact, because you will get the best people for your company if you have an impactful company. If you have a mission where people are falling in love with, you get the best people, more and more. And it needs to be so impactful and so purpose-driven that it's easy to tell, like in 2, 3, 4 sentences, boom. Instead of making a long story and making it that you have to sell it to your own potential employees already.
Yeah.
Then if that is too difficult, you're heading the wrong way, I think.
And with both things that you're sharing, so in order for something to be unique and truly purpose-driven, I believe it needs to come from the inside out. Yeah, you as a creator are the embodiment of what you want to put in the world. And there's no way that it can be something else. It has to happen.
Yeah.
When you look at also the business plans that come your way and the entrepreneurs you meet, if you would make an estimate of how many of those entrepreneurs would you see as those are creating from the inside out, this purpose-driven and unique, and this percentage is not, maybe because they're not connected to themselves or whatever is the reason. So how many entrepreneurs are truly purpose-driven at this stage when you look around you?
Of my investments, right? Or
whatever you...
all the investments that are coming to me that are potential.
And your investment is probably a lot.
Yes, right? Exactly. That might be 80%.
In what's coming through you, to you, probably relatively a lot as well, because otherwise you wouldn't get them.
Yeah.
But in the total deal flow that's coming your way.
Okay, the only real important thing I can say about that is that the younger the entrepreneurs, the more impactful or purpose-driven or the way pure the initiatives are. That's what I see.
And why do you think that is?
Because it is sometimes not very professionally written down, but very honestly, very pure. Sometimes they lack business model knowledge or experience or proof. But the sustainable side is really, they thought of it very well. While older entrepreneurs, I see that this is a whole thing which is perfectly written down with all their experience, where I am, if I ask more questions about the sustainable part, it's not as strong as I see with these young entrepreneurs. It's a generation difference. I think it is there because of older entrepreneurs have learned to adapt from an old world, but that old world is an old pattern which is still inside. But they have adapted and they write things differently. They also have view or eye for sustainability. Also, not like pure 100% from there you start. No, also, we also need that. Otherwise, we cannot sell it.
Yeah, but it's not pure.
But it's not really always pure. Some are, some not. And these young entrepreneurs, they start with that already. And then there's a different problem. If they start, they say, yeah, well, come on, I'm not going to work for 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a different world right now.
So knowing what you know, that sometimes that is what is needed to work those 80 hours a week, does that pull you back from making an investment? If an entrepreneur is not eager enough to say, I'm going all in.
Yes. Yeah. Immediately, I withdraw.
Yeah.
I pull out or I don't invest. No. If there's if that passion or willingness to go whatever it takes to make the company successful, if it's not there, yeah, I will not invest. I mean, I can imagine if someone has to choose for spending time on his very, very ill wife or children, that's more difficult. But then there will be a plan B, because you still would feel that this person wants to make it a success.
Yeah.
But if those requirements are already, I also want to spend time on this and that, and which means I cannot, of all my life, I cannot spend more than 50% on my company, then you will be having a restricted company as well in results.
Now, I can totally relate to that. We're coming with Awake Origins from the Blueprint Scan, of course, and there are three very profound questions at the core of our universal blueprint, and those are: what do you love? What do you believe in? And what is your vision? And those three need to come together to truly live from a deep sense of purpose. Sometimes I explain to people, what is your vision is about what do you want to give your life to? And to say, maybe say it a bit more extreme, what are you willing to die for? What is so important to you that you just want to give it your all?
Yeah.
And if people are not willing to do that, it's probably also not your purpose.
Yeah.
Or you're not tapped into it enough. Without the all in, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree.
If that's truthful.
Yeah. And it for me, it's easy because I felt that purpose for a long time already. But I can imagine if someone would say, okay, this purpose is not your purpose anymore. We skip it out of your life. Don't argue. That's the rule.
Yeah.
From now on, I would have big difficulties finding a purpose. Because that is, so people that don't feel that or don't have that, I can imagine it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Because you probably go in some kind of artificial way of thinking, this is the purpose that fits that and that and that requirements. Maybe that's good for me.
Yeah.
Very difficult. I mean...
And it feels very meaningless then, of course, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life.
I will... At the moment I think of it, if someone would take my purpose away, that would be really very empty.
Yeah.
Scary. It's really scary.
Yeah. Oh, there's no direction anymore. So
no.
we're just going through life like well, not focused, but with your eyes fully closed. Yeah. I love this conversation. Thank you very much for taking your time to be here.
Thank you, Joel.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I loved it. Thank you. Nice questions.
And looking forward to what's going to unfold for you in the upcoming year.
Me too. We will discuss that. Absolutely.
Good.
Promise you.
Thank you. Imagine a world where we all remember the mind-blowing truth of who we really are. A world where a global awakening has rooted us in the collective consciousness. A world where we go all in on elevating our frequency, our organizations, and innovating the way we build our society.
What does it mean to actually feel aligned with who you are? To let life be an expression through you.
We need to know who we are in order to function accordingly.
You see a collective arising, contributing to a brighter future.
So much is changing in the world. More and more people are waking up, truly discovering who they are.
To know and to experience that you're not the only one out there.
Are you hungry enough to go all in? Good task, real feeling, the connection of everything.
Welcome to this Awake Origins experience.
It's time to come home. To a home where conscious entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers co-create a brighter future together.